Srimad, His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Yantaram Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Gaura Premanandi. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Listening to the verse, it's Untitled Chapter 2, text number 30. Shall we recite the verse responsively or just go on with the translation? Is it enough have you able to handheld device with verse? No.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Samudra Sukshmendriya Sanikasham Manomayam Deva Mayam Vikaryam Samsadya Gatya Sahate Nayati Vijnana Tattvam Guna Sannirodham Sabhuta Sukshmendriya Sannikarsham Manomayam Deva Mayam Vikaryam Samsadya Gatya Sahatena Yati Vijnana Tattvam Guna Sannirodham. Anyone of our men would like to chant the verse? You want to chant? No? Ladies? Translation: the devotee, it sounds like a yogi, but the devotee, saha, thus surpassing the gross and subtle forms of coverings, enters the plane of egoism. And in that status, he merges the material modes of nature, ignorance and passion, in this point of neutralization, and thus reaches egoism and goodness. After this, all egoism is merged in the Mahatattva, and he comes to the point of pure self-realization. Sounds like quite a journey, huh? The Lord in the heart. 2.5-page purport. 3-page purport. Pure self-realization, as we have several times discussed, is the pure consciousness of admitting oneself to be the eternal servitor of the Lord. Thus, one is reinstated in his original position of transcendental loving service to the Lord, as will be clearly explained in the following verse. This stage of rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord without any hopes of emolument from the Lord or any other way can be attained when the material senses are purified and the original pure state of the senses is revived. It is suggested herein that the process of purifying the senses is by the yogic way, namely, the gross senses are merged in the mode of ignorance, and the subtle senses are merged in the mode of passion. The mind belongs to the mode of goodness, and therefore is called Devamaya, or godly. Perfect purification of the mind is made possible when one is fixed in the conviction of being the eternal servant of the Lord. Therefore, simple attainment of goodness is also a material mode. One has to surpass the stage of material goodness and reach the point of purified goodness, or Vasudeva Sattva. This Vasudeva Sattva helps one to enter into the kingdom of God. Paragraph. We may also remember in this connection that the process of gradual emancipation by the devotees in the manner mentioned above, although authoritative, is not viable in the present age because of people's being primarily unaware of yoga practice. The so-called yoga practice by the professional protagonists may be physiologically beneficial, but
Such small successes cannot help one in the attainment of spiritual emancipation, as mentioned herein. 5,000 years ago, when the social status of human society was in perfect Vedic order, the yoga process mentioned herein was a common affair for everyone, because everyone, and especially the Brahmana and Kshatriya, was trained in the transcendental art under the care of the spiritual master, far away from home, in the status of brahmacharya. Modern man, however, is incompetent to understand it perfectly. Paragraph. Lord Sri Chaitanya therefore made it easier for the prospective devotee of the present age in the following specific manner. Ultimately, there is no difference in the result. The first and foremost point is that one must understand the prime importance of bhakti yoga. The living beings in different species of life are undergoing different terms of engagement according to their fruitive actions and reactions. But in the execution of different activities, one who secures some resources in bhakti yoga can understand the importance of service to the Lord through the causeless mercy of the Lord, as well as that of the spiritual master. A sincere soul is helped by the Lord through meeting a bona fide spiritual master, the representative of the Lord. By the instruction of such a spiritual master, one gets the seed of bhakti yoga. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that the devotee sow the seed of bhakti yoga in the heart and nurture it by the watering of hearing and chanting the holy name, fame, etc. of the Lord. The simple process of offenseless chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord will gradually promote one very soon, gradually, very soon. Hold your breath, right? Very soon, to the stage of emancipation. There are 3 stages in chanting the holy name of the Lord. The first stage is the offensive chanting of the holy name. The second is the reflective stage of chanting the holy name. The third is the offenseless chanting of the holy name of the Lord. In the second stage only, the stage of reflection, between the offensive and offenseless stages, one automatically attains the stage of emancipation. And in the offenseless stage, one actually enters into the kingdom of God, although physically he may apparently be within the material world. To attain the offenseless stage, one must be on guard in the following manner. Paragraph. When we speak of hearing and chanting, it means that not only should one chant and hear the holy name of the Lord as Rama, Krishna, or systematically the 16 names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, but one should also read and hear the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. The primary practice of bhakti yoga will cause the seed already sowed in the heart to sprout. And by a regular watering process, as mentioned above, the bhakti yoga creeper will begin to grow. By systematic nurturing, the creeper will grow to such an extent that it will penetrate the coverings of the universe, as we have heard in the previous verses, reach the effulgent sky, the Brahmajyoti, and go farther and farther and reach the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable spiritual planets called Vaikuntha Lokas. Above all of them is Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan, wherein the growing creeper enters and takes repose at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the original personality of Godhead. When one reaches the lotus feet of Lord Krishna at Goloka Vrindavan, the watering process of hearing and chanting, as also chanting of the holy name in the pure devotional stage, fructifies, and the fruits grown there in the form of love of God are tangibly tasted by the devotee, even though he is here in this material world. The ripe fruits of love of God are relished only by the devotees constantly engaged in the watering process as described above. But the working devotee must always be mindful so that the creeper which has so grown will not be cut off. Therefore, he should be mindful of the following considerations, 8 in number. 1. Offense by one at the feet of a pure devotee may be likened to the mad elephant who devastates a very good garden if it enters. 2. One must be very careful to guard himself against such offenses at the feet of pure devotees, just as one protects a creeper by all-around fencing. 3. It so happens that by the watering process some weeds are grown, and unless such weeds are uprooted, the nurturing of the main creeper, or the creeper of Bhakti Yoga, may be hampered. 4. Actually, these weeds are material enjoyment, merging of the self in the absolute without separate individuality, and many other desires in the field of religion, economic development, sense enjoyment, and emancipation. 5. There are many other weeds, like disobedience to the tenets of the revered scriptures, unnecessary engagements, killing animals, and hankering after material gain, prestige, and adoration. 6. If sufficient care is not taken, then the watering process may only help to breed the weeds, stunting the healthy growth of the main creeper and resulting in no fructification of the ultimate requirement, love of God. 7. The devotee must therefore be very careful to uproot the different weeds in the very beginning. Only then will the healthy growth of the main creeper not be stunted. And the last, 8. And by so doing, the devotee is able to relish the fruit of love of God and thus live practically with Lord Krishna, even in this life, and be able to see the Lord in every step. And the final paragraph. The highest perfection of life is to enjoy life constantly in the association of the Lord, and one who can relish this does not aspire after any temporary enjoyment of the material world via other media. Wow, that was quite a purport. It was quite a verse, and how Prabhupada extracted that purport from that verse is really masterful. Because he keeps translating the devotee. And the description is a description of a Ashtanga yogi. He does something very similar in Bhagavad Gita, where karma yoga becomes bhakti yoga. And bhakti yoga is bhakti yoga. Because the fruit of that karma yoga, when it's matured, becomes bhakti. I mean, or the, not to one-to-one correlation, say it the other way. The benefits derived from karma yoga are a subset of the benefits of bhakti yoga. It's not that karma yoga is a cause of bhakti yoga. The connection with Krishna, the offering the fruits unto Krishna is. Of course, offering the fruits unto Krishna requires something additional. There's a nice verse. We covered this when I was here the last time. One of Brahma's prayers describes how yogis who are meditating on the Supersoul can go back to Godhead. And the object of their attention is the Supersoul. They direct the mind and senses towards the Supersoul. They engage in detached work, offering the fruits unto the Supreme. So there's the karma yoga element combined with the dhyana yoga element. And then the additional and most important part is hearing regularly topics of the personality of Godhead. Because that's the bhakti nourisher. And they're eligible to go back to Godhead. So like that, that's one verse in a nutshell. This is a whole chapter that's expanding that one verse. And these are yogis who have this good fortune of devotee association. And so they're not all followers of yoga are devotees. Not all followers of varnashram are Vaishnavas. Not all followers of anything are necessarily devotees. So, but here it's the devotee, which means it's taking the translation that Prabhupada is rendering is knowing where the train is going. The train is going to the stage where, at a mature position, they engage in devotional service directly. So the gift of Lord Chaitanya is to engage in devotional service directly. Because the other process is a meandering process that people don't have an understanding, nor the determination, nor the duration of life, nor the good fortune that's necessary to follow that meandering process and reach the destination. Although it's attainable, it's very troublesome and highly unlikely. And who is there to guide such a person through the many lifetimes it takes to get there? There aren't such persons. The manda samanda matayo manda bhagya yupadrata, the misfortune is this age of Kali. So the misfortunate people, as Prabhupada is saying in simple terms, they don't know the process. Not their fault. It's a transcendental process. It requires a proper teacher, and the proper teacher isn't there. And so it stays on the material platform. Beneficial, and if, as he's saying, physiological platform. So people like that. Why has yoga become so popular? All over the world, really popular, and growing and growing and growing, because people feel good. And not only do people feel good, there's ways to cure diseases. Without giving examples, there's ways to cure diseases. I'll give one example. Some number of years ago, I was taking Ayurvedic treatment in Bombay. And the home at which I was staying, the wife was into meditation and the yoga process. meditation and specifically the yoga process. So she was kind of pressuring me, encouraging me, more than encouraging me, pressuring me to go to the place where she does her yoga practice. So we got in a car. It took about an hour to get there, way out in the boonies. And it was a very serene place, huge trees, very nicely cared grounds, etc., etc. And so when they were ready, when I came, they were sitting in a circle and they were volunteering, their success story. One said, I had such and such medical problem, and every doctor I went to said it has to be surgery, it has to be surgery, it has to be surgery. I was uncomfortable with surgery. I came here, and presto, no surgery. And now I'm well again. And then the next one, and then the next one. So there are when there is a good teacher that knows the material benefits, then it has even greater physiological benefit. But it stays on the material platform. That's not the purpose. It doesn't mean you can't do yoga for physiological benefit, but that's not what yoga is for. The final analysis, yoga is for going back to Godhead. I mean, very similar is the Sankhya system of Kapiladeva. And the Sankhya system of Kapiladeva, it's actually for devotees. But there are those that aren't devotees that really like the Sankhya system. And the Sankhya system teaches matter and spirit, and then depending on your orientation, you may just become an impersonalist. Materialists, they really like Sankhya. You can just how do the puzzle pieces fit together? There's no self-realization at all. Or there's self-realization in the impersonal sense. Or there's realization of I'm spirit, and then move into meditation in that detachment from knowledge position. But that's not what Kapila's incarnation of the personality of Godhead. So he teaches, after understanding Sankhya, it's right at the end of the Sankhya chapter 26, engage in meditation on Supersoul, and then transition from meditation on the Supersoul to pure devotional service. That was really quick. And then he expands into following chapters. And it's similar here. It's the devotee, the devotee, the devotee. But the high-level view of moving from meditation upon the universal form, meditation upon the Paramatma form, and change of heart, not just meditation upon the personal form, but engaging in pure, unalloyed service to the Bhagavan form. It's not elaborated upon, but it is mentioned that one lets go of the former and accepts the latter. It's like walking up the steps to get up to the temple room. You let go of the lower step to get onto the next step. You let go of the next step to go to the next step, and so on. Therefore, the translation, the devotee, because Prabhupada is nourishing bhakti. Bhagavatam is nourishing bhakti. And there are people that are not so devotional, not so bhakti-ish. And so they can read it a different way. But Prabhupada wants us, he's preparing us, his audience, his followers, to see this principle in the bhakti light. And so some of this robust purport is drilling down a little bit on the whole continuity from grosser and detachment from the grosser to the subtle, and the subtle going into the. I don't ask about the abode of false ego because I don't know what that is. The plane of egoism. There's a plane of egoism, and that's in the mode of goodness. So it's in other words, egoism in the Sankhya system. When the glance of Mahavishnu, which carries living entities in time, contacts Pradhan, the transformation of Pradhan begins. And by the presence of the soul and time, the modes of nature become activated. So there's Prakriti, there's time, and there's the activated modes of nature. And from the mode of ignorance arises false ego. So this is this plane of egoism. It's subtle, the most subtle, within the Mahatattva. Because there's grosser and other forms, but the most subtle is the plane of egoism. I mean, I'm trying to make sense of what the verse is saying. It's that by consciousness withdrawing from the grosser states of physical objects and perceiving the physical objects, detaching oneself from the physical to the subtle, detaching oneself from the subtle to the plane of false ego. So now we're in this realm of goodness, although egoism arises from those things mentioned, living entity, the jiva, time, intermingling with pradhan, the modes become activated. When the mode of ignorance manifests false ego, but going back the other direction, what we're hearing is, in that state he merges the material modes of nature, ignorance and passion, in this point of neutralization, and thus reaches egoism in goodness. Apparently, egoism arises from contact with the mode of ignorance, but there's different qualities of egoism. That is our experience, isn't it? And there's a realm or a state of consciousness, or a plane, or a place, a realm that you can't go in an airplane or something. You can't go with your telescope and binoculars. It's a plane of consciousness where there's this false egoism in goodness. And then the verse takes us beyond that. After this, all egoism is merged in the Mahatattva, and he, that's the devotee or the yogi, comes to the point of pure self-realization. So not just by knowledge and detachment, but by meditation upon Supersoul, meditation upon the transcendental form of Paramatma, then one can be cleansed of coverings. And when the coverings are cleansed, the self remains. Pure self-realization. That's really high. Who's going to achieve that? Who's somebody who can teach that? Who's somebody that has achieved it and can teach it? Where's the student that has the determination to do it? And in simple terms, people don't have guidance, have an understanding of this principle. They accept something way down here. Hatha yoga to feel good and to lose weight and, de-stress or something. And those benefits are there, but that's not what yoga is. It's not its fullness of what yoga is. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given a very simple process. That's the 2/3 of the purport, which in principle achieves the same, but the process is different. It's true, Prabhupada says, when some people criticize, oh, this is primitive, just chant Hare Krishna, and everything that you can achieve by any other beneficial activity is a subset of chanting Hare Krishna. This is very naive. Or Prabhupada said they would say primitive. And you give them something complicated and they like it. Whether they can achieve it or its benefit is another thing, but they don't call it primitive. They call it some nice name. And have interest. And how many are interested in, of course, by promoting, then there are candidates out there and persons who do contact the Bhagavatam and its teachings are receiving enormous eternal spiritual benefit. But the age is difficult. So the process is simple. And even the process is simple, it's rarely achieved. That's one of the statements in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Not just pure devotional service, but devotional service. It's rarely achieved. What to speak of pure devotional service? Because people are involved with their senses and their mind and speculation and fruitive endeavors, and if that blocks the light of the Bhagavat. Just like that wall there. I mean, someday maybe there isn't going to be a wall there. But over there, on the other side, there's the sun. Look out the window and I could see the sunlight. But through the wall, you can't see the sunlight. So sunlight is there, the light of the Bhagavat is there, but it's blocked in differing degrees of maybe not just a wall, but maybe just a cloud or something. And how to get rid of the wall, how to get rid of the cloud, how to get the direct light of the Bhagavat. And that's what these 8 points are indicating, step by step by step. There's the do's and there's the do-nots. And that's the vidhi of sadhana bhakti. And then comes pure devotional service. And then devotional service begins. Right? Brahmabhuta prasanama nasochati nakangsati samaksarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. And then devotional service begins. Means pure devotional service. And the other is practice. Just this morning, I was hearing Prabhupada give a really nice example, which I like. And I think I'll be using it more often. He was using the example of jump-starting a car. Supposing the engine is not, or the starter is not starting and turning over the engine to start it. So, of course, you can't do this with automatic transmissions, but with standard transmissions, Prabhupada was asking, what's it called? There must be some term that he knows in India, but it's jump start. People get out of the car, there's somebody at the driver's seat, and they put the clutch down, and they push. And then at a certain speed, he pops the clutch and gives the gas and zoom, zoom, zoom. Jump start. Now Prabhupada was using that example 3 times to say the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, that's the push. And then for bhakti to continue, it has to be like the car that then connects with its natural capacities. So our innate capacity of spontaneous service to Krishna is there, and it's helped by the Vaidhi, the vidhis of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So we do the vidhis. Even when one is in the spontaneous stage, one does the vidhis. Unless they interfere with the spontaneous mode of love, and that's what Rupa Goswami's teachings are. And that's what we're doing. We're following Rupa Goswami's teachings. Doing the jump start to get the engine running. And that's what the next chapter is. Pure devotional service, change of heart. Okay, it's 8:15. Let's see if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So, in the process of hearing, reading, and chanting,
Mm-hmm.
just what I understood that the bhakti process, that's how you grow it, the creeper, in this Kali Yuga. So, I think a couple of questions maybe. What should be one's mood in that?
The mood.
The mood. And the second question is...
Let's do one at a time.
Okay.
I'll get distracted. Depending upon one's stage of awakened bhakti, depending upon one's stage, one can use a term to say. In all of those higher stages, it's faith in different unfolding stages of faith. Faith. Faith, with it through this activity that's defined in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that by this activity, I'll get to where I want to go. I'll achieve that which I desire to achieve, spiritually speaking. And supposing there's a mix. Usually there's a mix. Always there's a mix. Almost always there's a mix. Unless you're Prahlad or Sukadeva or something. Mix. Even those things are fulfilled. That by this one thing, all desirable things are achieved. That's the definition in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shraddha Shabde. When the word Shraddha is used, Shabde, when you hear that word, Vishvas kahe sudridha nishchaya. Vishvas means confidence. It's a word like faith, but confidence. Sudridha nishchaya. All things that are desirable will come. And then the next, Krishna Bhakti. What's that one thing? If I achieve this one thing, all other things will be achieved. Krishna Bhakti. Sarva karma kritahaya. Sarva karma kritahaya. Sarva karma kritahaya. Everything is just do this one thing. If I get $1 million, I have $100. I get the $1 million. Have a clear sense of what is that one thing by which all other things, so that some faith, and there's stages of faith. A preliminary faith, Adav Shraddha, can be something as simple as there's a higher reality. Supposing someone doesn't have that faith, then they're materialist. All there is matter, and the laws governing matter, and nothing matters, and I'm an existentialist, or I'm a materialist, or I'm a whatever. No faith in something that's beyond a higher reality. So then faith becomes nourished. So the mood corresponds with the stage or the evolution of bhakti. Because bhakti means service So a service mood is an important part of the mood. As opposed to just information gathering, because part of our conditioning is information gathering, information technology, just like assembling all your information stuff and becoming good at it, called IT. And, that's happiness, is being good at IT. And I get rewarded, and I get appreciated, and I get stuff because I can organize stuff really good. So, not with gyan and not with karma. So that's part of the mood. It's rather service, without expectation of information gathering or gaining something from it. So it can be an immature stage, but that's a part of the faith. That's the mood. Is I like to move towards that. Jnana karma janavritam. Your question is now, what's the mood? So, detachment from the fruits of speculation and fruitive activity, at least heading in that direction. That's the mood. And another, humble service. Humble service, unpack humble, and it doesn't mean, it means I can't do this on my own. I'm very tiny, and I'm making my efforts, but I let go of the fruitive thing, so I need mercy. Humble implies looking up to those who are merciful and seeking the help from those who are merciful. And up and up and up and up and up, depending upon the level of one's bhakti, up to the eternal associates of Krishna in the spiritual world. That's Raganuga Bhakti. So the mood depends upon humility. The mood depends upon service. The mood depends upon faith in different stages. The willingness to open my heart and look within my heart and see unwanted things that are there, and being willing to make this weeds, removing them. And then I remove some, they're okay, but some are very difficult to remove. I have bad habits, and I'm habituated to my habits, and even I know they're unwholesome. Help, the effort and mercy. That's the mood. Next.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. And I think I've read or heard that simple hearing, or by simply hearing, or simply doing other things, also like reading or things. Is there any partial benefit? Is there any benefit at all?
Of course.
Okay.
Now, simply doesn't mean automatic. Simply has an element of submission within it. Then, corresponding to, this is a mood question also, or mood response, according to submission, then I'll get greater or lesser result. And because submission vacillates like a sine curve, so I'm going to get greater or lesser benefit. But even if it's unconscious, unintentional, the tree in your, the plant in your home, and you're chanting, and the plant is hearing, there's benefit because it's absolute. The benefit of the plant that's in your room is not the same as a human that's eager, etc. But consciousness is there wherever there's a soul, and so there's benefit just even from the most preliminary stage. Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. My question is about the yoga process, Ashtanga Yogi and the Bhakti Yogi. I mean, most of the times, when we hear from Bhagavad Gita, I mean, this completely, the Ashtanga Yogi is, there's no mercy involved.
There's no mercy involved?
Yeah.
There's some mercy. Wherever the word yoga is there, some mercy is there.
So, at a mature, I mean, it's very troublesome process. I mean, it's very difficult process. I mean, what we are hearing in this whole section. At what stage of I mean, of course, I mean, the final stage samadhi, but then there is, at what stage of in the Ashtanga Yoga that they will be, when they have to become a devotee, go back to Godhead?
Yes.
So at what stage, I mean, there would be some, I mean, the bhakti gets matured.
Yeah. Well, you know, if what you're asking is how does the Ashtanga yogi come to the stage of Shuddha Bhakti and thus go back to Godhead? That's your question.
Yeah, I mean, there is a bhakta also involved, should be involved.
Yeah, there's association with the bhakta, and he says yes to the association of a bhakta. He receives bhakti. His bhakti gets nourished by the association of bhakta. Like that verse, I referenced it, say it again, in Brahma's prayers, that a yogi can go back to Godhead. It requires, one of the elements in what is the requirement, or pre-requirement, is hearing topics about the personality of Godhead from the right source, of course. That's the bhakti element, or bhakti nourishing element. The others are, making the mind clean, making the body clean, making the residual stuff inside the heart clean. And then there's awakening of bhakti, but that's the hearing. And also offering the results of, because the yogi isn't just sitting in a meditation stage or just doing his yoga asanas. They clean their clothes and brush their teeth and take bath and cook their food, and so that, whatever else they do. So those activities are to be offered to the Supreme. So there's a karma yoga element. Within the karma yoga element, there's Krishna, unto Krishna. Gradual. Uncommon to go, that back to Godhead down that path, for reasons already mentioned in the purport and we discussed. Something else? You have something.
I'm thinking, what is offense?
What is offense?
Yeah, and I have a specific also, in the sense, is it not doing what I was told is an offense? I have a personal difficulty in following what I was told, so I'm trying to understand what is offense.
Well, it depends. Like Prabhupada was told something by Bhaktisiddhanta and he didn't right away do it, but he did it. So when he wasn't doing it, was that an offense? He was preparing himself, he felt unqualified, etc., etc. Yeah, back to his question about mood. Something else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. My question is on Pradhan.
Your question is on
Pradhan.
Pradhan.
Yeah. Is it the accumulation of karmic reactions
No.
of all the living entities?
No.
Okay.
My understanding of what Pradhan is, it's one of the multiple terms that's used to describe states of Prakriti. that term pradhan means, when it's used, it means the undifferentiated state of the totality of material energy. When the pradhan starts to separate out into its 24 elements, it has another name, Mahatattva. It's the same Prakriti. And then there's other terms and other terms. It's just describing like a cloud in the sky. An undifferentiated state of the material energy floating around in the spiritual sky, pradhan. Is that okay?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. While chanting, most of the time, while I really want to be attentive, make no offenses, but most of the time it becomes mechanical. I'm distracted with things that keep coming, work-related notifications, this, that. So I know I'm supposed to be chanting to please Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah, really, what am I supposed to do to please
That's
Krishna?
two different questions. So let's do that. What does it mean first? Anyabhilasha shunyam jnana karma janavritam anukulyena krishna anushilanam. That's what it means. You know the meaning of the verse, right? That's what it means. It's not this, it's not that, it is this. So it is this, that's anukulyena krishna anushilanam. It means that the purpose of this activity is not that and it's not that. It's the pleasure of Krishna. Now, if I want to develop a relationship with someone, supposing it's not Krishna, supposing it's my neighbor, or supposing it's another devotee in the congregation, or supposing it's whoever, somebody, I should think about what's pleasing to them and consider what's pleasing to them and speak and act according to what's pleasing to them. Or Prabhupada gives this example. From a walk, in each morning he would take a walk for his health, his condition. Doctor told him, so he did. He said it added 10 years to his life. So he would go for walks in parks, and he would see, a wealthy person out walking his dog. Not all wealthy persons have dogs, but some do. If you want to meet that wealthy person, what do you have to do to meet that wealthy person? But if you see the dog, you go up to the wealthy person and say, Fido, and scratch him under the chin and pat his head, and you've made friends with the wealthy person. In a similar way, pleasing Krishna means the representatives of Krishna, those who are dear to Krishna, the Vaishnavas. Not only Guru, but Vaishnavas. So Vaishnav Seva is an essential element to pleasing Krishna. And when you're serving Vaishnavas, they're at the center. So because you did the Anyabhilasha Shunyam Jnana Karma Janavatam program. It's not you're at the center, it's the Vaishnava is at the center. It's pleasing the Vaishnava, not getting praise from them or appreciation from them or recognition from them or something like that. It's just pleasing the Vaishnava. And that's pleasing to Krishna. And that will help you in your chanting. There's a lot more to say, but that's a nice beginning. It's a contemplation of what is it that's pleasing to Krishna. Let me do that. Anukulyena, anukulyasya same anukul. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjana. I was thinking about this just this morning. Accepting and rejecting. That which is pleasing to Krishna, you accept. That which is not pleasing to Krishna, you let go of. Jnane prayasa udapasya. Namanteva. You know that verse. Lord Brahma. The verse that Lord Chaitanya accepted, this is the sadhya and the sadhana. Namanta eva requires jnane prayasa udapasya. So there's the do nots and then there's the do. And that's, the process of surrender. That's pleasing to Krishna. He doesn't need anything. Not like we're boosting his ego because he's an egomaniac or an egoistic person. We flatter him and then he smiles. It's not like that. For a materialistic person, that's part of the dynamic that goes on. It's not like that. Pleasing Krishna is recognizing the person, and from Scripture, what's the person like, what's pleasing to them, and you do that. And you refrain from other things. That's, the lifestyle. And then there's the important part of the lifestyle, hearing and chanting. So you focus all of that lifestyle into the hearing and chanting. You focus on the hearing and chanting, it strengthens the lifestyle. One supports the other. Humility is very important. Humility pleases Krishna. Say the opposite. Pride doesn't please Krishna. Acting through false ego doesn't please Krishna. And we're stuck because we got this false ego thing stuck to us. So pleasing Krishna means I recognize that and I want to go beyond it. And I make efforts and I realize I can't. So I call to those who are dear to Krishna to help me. The great souls. And that's pleasing to Krishna. Amanina manadena kirtaniya sadhari. So we just covered the Shikshastika 3. Anything else? We have online something? No? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.